I'm going to start recording. Thanks for being the only one who came today, but I will post this recording after we kind of run through this, and hopefully anyone who needs to have a little refresher can take a look at that. And yeah, definitely feel free to ask any questions as I go along, or if you need clarification on anything.
Great, thank you.
Let me know. Okay, so one thing that's going to be different, let me share my screen from now on. Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So one thing that's going to be pretty different this year is I have posted sort of all of our resources on a pretty easy to remember URL. And so anything that needs to be printed or any instructions or the volunteer cheat sheets that we had been using have been updated and posted to this URL. So it's tinyurl.com/LUC registration. And that's going to take us to the Loyola Votes research guide that the library's provided. But basically, the cool thing about it is that it has all of these documents that you will need to print before the event. So the volunteer cheat sheet, a statistics sheet to keep track of any registrations that you may get, the What Now flyers that we give to every student after they register. It'll have the slides from the presentation I'm about to give and this recording. And then it also has these links. So all of the links that we need for new voters, vote by mail, checking your registration, making sure you're not registered in another state, they're all here. And so whenever we start out, you can just go to this page, open all these links, and you'll have everything you need for when you start getting students who want to come up and register. So we'll talk about those links in this presentation a little bit. I'm going to run through pretty quickly just because the slides will be there and those links are all there. So I'm not going to show too much demonstration, but let me know if there's something that needs clarification. Okay. And for anyone watching this, obviously, let me know. You can always email me, kpatterson with 1T at luc.edu if you need anything. And yeah, okay, so to vote in the municipal election, you must, again, be a United States citizen, be 18 by election day, live in the precinct at least 30 days, not be convicted of a crime or in jail, and not claim the right to vote anywhere else. So one thing that our students might be confused about is the fact that they just registered to vote and they may have just registered in their home states. So if they switch their registration with us, that means that from now on they're registered in Illinois. And if they decide that they don't want to be registered in Illinois again or anymore, then they'll have to switch their registration again. So this isn't just like a one-time thing and then they get to go back to voting in Michigan, which I think we all know, but our students might not know. So that's a good thing to remind them of. So for anyone who saw this presentation originally, I've kind of broken it down into 3 categories. There's the ask, the process, and the follow-up. So basically what we mean by the ask is how we ask our students if they'd like to register to vote or if they're interested in voting in the municipal election. So we like to keep it simple. We just say, hey, are you registered to vote in Chicago? Or, hey, there's an election coming up in Chicago, are you registered? Again, it's a little easier with the midterms because I think most of them knew there was an election happening, whereas right now, they might not, which can be a little bit difficult. So if they are registered, we can get them an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot. We can let them know where their polling place is because the election will take place later this month. That can be really important as to how they're going to vote. If they have class that Tuesday, they might just want an absentee ballot or a vote by mail ballot. If they're unsure if they're registered, you can take them to this link, which is also listed on that website to check. They'll just type in where their address and their name, and it'll let them know. And if they're not registered or not registered in Chicago, you can ask them if they'd like to. Obviously, we can't force them to register to vote at all, but especially we can't force them to change their registration just because they're living in Chicago. So if anyone asks you, do I have to? Obviously, the answer is no. So again, they may not know that there's an election. It's on February 26th. The runoff will be on April 2nd if necessary, and students may be confused as to what a municipal election is. The What Now flyer will link them to more information, and on the back, let me see if I can pull that up right now. There's actually, yeah, here we go. Just a little bit of information about when the election is, what seats are up, and maybe a little bit about the runoff and why they might care about a municipal election. So that's different from what we did in the fall, just because there may be a few more questions surrounding the municipal election. Okay, let's see. And of course, okay. So then we get to the process. So if they have an Illinois state ID or license, this is super easy. You just take them to the online form and sort of walk them through it as they fill it out if they need help. It's pretty intuitive, but if they need any help, that's definitely there for them. If no, but they know the last four of their social, you'll use that same online form, but you'll need to print that form out. So we will be sending out an email about how to set the printers up and everything. I know that we had a little bit of trouble with that when we did the registration in the fall, but hopefully those kinks have been worked out. But you'll put those forms in an envelope, address it to the Chicago Board of Elections, and we will mail it for them. So I'll also be getting stamps and envelopes out to everyone who is sort of leading a registration. If they don't know the last four of their social, you print the form and just give it to them straight up. So they will need to mail two pieces of proof of their identity, so a current utility bill or bank statement, their valid photo identification, so their license from another state, a passport, those will work. And they can find all that information online. It's also in that research guide that they'll get to from the What Now flyer. So as always, when someone registers, give them their What Now flyer and count them on your stat sheet. So the stat sheet is also new. Let's take a look at it. It's on, again, this website with all the links and all of the sheets. It's really simple. You just tick once for new voters in the new voter column, address change, name change, vote by mail request. Pretty simple. It'll have your name and email on it and the location where you're doing registration. And once you're finished registering voters, you'll give it to whoever is leading that registration event, and that person will give it to me, and then we'll have like a good record of what we did. Okay. Oh, why do I always do this? That's the second time. I'm sure it'll happen again. Okay, so all right, so that's what it'll look like if they have their valid state ID from Illinois. And once you get here in the form, that's where, if they don't have their state ID, okay, yeah, so if they don't have their state ID, it'll say no, and then it'll have you enter the last four of their social if they have that. And then eventually you'll have to print it out. So that's at the end under ID check when you're going through the form with them. Okay, so if they're changing their name or address, whether they're an in-state voter, okay, yeah, or if they're changing their name or their address from somewhere out of state to in-state, you're gonna go to the Illinois online voter registration application website, same as if they're a first-time voter and they've never registered before. On the third step, you're going to need to make sure that they select change your current registration address or change your current registration name, depending on what they want to do. That's really important, and it's something to remind them of if they're changing their addresses. Again, if they don't have that Illinois ID, they'll need to print the form and mail it. And always make sure that the students are signing the printed forms before they put the form into the envelope. And again, count them on your stat sheet and give them that What Now form. So checking registration is super easy. I know we were using vote.org in the fall. Unfortunately, from what I can tell, vote.org is currently not functioning, just probably because of funding and because it's sort of an off year for most places. We're just weird in that we want people to vote when it's freezing cold outside in our city elections. So if they think they're registered in Chicago already, this website, which is again linked, that'll be one of the first links you open when you're doing your registration event. You'll take them to the Chicago Elections website and they can check their voter information there. I checked mine and it comes up with this really great thing. It has your ward, your precinct, your registration number, your voter status, information about your polling place, and information about your district. I would personally offer to print that for the student or the registrant, just because it might be helpful to them. So if that's something that you feel like you'd like to do for them, go ahead. If they think they're registered outside of Chicago, there's another website for that. They'll just have to select the state where they think that they're registered, and it'll take them directly to that state's Board of Elections where they can check as many addresses as they'd like. Okay, so getting a vote by mail ballot. So if you're going to be voting in this election, it's not really absentee, it's vote by mail. So you'll direct them again to the Chicago Elections website and have them fill out a vote by mail application. You can walk them through the form if they need help. They shouldn't need to print it, but if they live in the dorms, please have them select, I want my ballot sent to a residential address in the USA, which is weird because the mailroom isn't a residential address, and there is somewhere for I want my ballot sent to a dorm. However, the students don't get mail delivered to their dorms, they get it delivered to a mailroom, so that I want my ballot sent to a residential address will be what they're looking for. So just make sure that they don't do that, because obviously it's really intuitive to click that they want it delivered to a dorm if they live in the dorms. So after they do that, again, what now form, count them in your stats. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure that all forms that need to be printed are printed and signed. Make sure that the envelope is addressed to the proper election authority, which in this case will be the Chicago Election Authority. And don't forget to give them a follow-up flyer. So a lot of the new voters may need to later apply to vote by mail if they're not planning on voting in person, if they've never voted before. If they just registered and they need to vote by mail, they'll need to wait for a couple weeks for that registration to go through. And that flyer will take them to a place where they can get information about how to check their registration and how to get that vote by mail ballot. So always count the student in the proper column of the stat sheet, just because we want, a really good record of what we're doing. A couple other helpful hints: sometimes students ask what party or candidate the registration is for. These are nonpartisan events. We've had a little bit of trouble in the past, not from Loyola volunteers, but from outside volunteers talking about politics at the table or engaging students who want to talk about politics at the table. That is not what we're here to do. It's actually illegal, and it's not something that we want our students to think is appropriate, because we're registering voters. We're not registering people for either party. We're not campaigning for anyone. And it's just important that we keep it as neutral as possible, which isn't to say that you can't say there are a lot of people running for mayor and there may be a runoff election. You just can't tell them, who they should vote for mayor, obviously. And then it's also important to emphasize how easy and quick registration is. Again, that link, tinyurl.com/LUC registration, will get you to where you need to go. And then luc.edu/vote is the official sort of home of all voter information at Loyola, which is edited by the Office of Civic Engagement. So that will also kind of eventually lead you back to this tiny URL if you need it. But yeah. All right, so any questions?
Hey, Kath.
Yes.
I just had one. So for the deadline for for them to be able to vote in the mayoral election. What is that one again?
So the deadline to register online is the 10th.
The 10th. Okay.
Yes.
And by mail, would that have already expired? Or?
No. The deadline for a vote by mail ballot, I think, is much later. I think it's let's see. I'm not quite sure, but I can get back to you. I'll post it.
Yeah,
as
or
well.
yeah, you can just post it in the little the site, and then I can.
Yeah, I'll put it on the volunteer cheat sheet. Yeah. Anything else? So, and also, just as a reminder, they can always register same day. So same day registration is the same as it was in the midterms.
Great.
Yeah, so as long as they go to their actual precinct where they would be voting, they can register there and vote there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm just going to run through really quickly the volunteer cheat sheet. It's double-sided, so it has basically that process that we just went over for new voters, change of address or name, and already registered need to, oh, there it is. Deadline for getting an online vote by mail ballot is February 21st.
Great.
So yeah, so that information that they might need. Sorry. So this is all the information that volunteers might need as they're kind of registering, just a summary of that PowerPoint. And then a couple frequently asked questions as well, including, you know, this one about, I'm not registered in Chicago, but can I, should I, sort of questions. Yeah, they definitely can, as long as they've been here for 30 days and are going to be 18, but it really is up to them. So I'm guessing that our numbers won't be super high this time, but you know, we always want to give our students an opportunity to register.
Yeah. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
No other questions?
No, that was the only one. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great. No problem. And for anyone who's watching this, if you still have questions, again, please email me. My email address should be on here somewhere, and it isn't, but it's kpatterson@luc.edu. So, all right, have a great day.